Hello, everybody. I'm so sorry. How is everybody doing? Thank you guys for joining us and watching the replay. If you're watching the replay, yeah, we weren't able to get on Thursday, so we decided we still didn't want to leave you guys hanging because we know last week we were having connection issues. So we're gonna be. That's why we made a part two, and we're gonna be going back over the rental agreements again. Yay!
Yay and no yay, because the topic we're going to be talking about is like not that Jay
That's a
situation.
serious, yeah, it's a serious topic. So, but yeah, I believe that with rental agreements, it can be tricky. And like I was saying last week, a lot of people have a lot of questions because people are claiming that they were being held hostage and things like that inside of privadas. And a lot of people are scared now to move into privadas. I have a lot of clients who are always asking me, "Hey, is it okay for me to move into a privada?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, it is. I promise you're not going to be held hostage. Nobody has been held hostage inside of a privada. That has not happened. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that. But how are you doing today, Karinna?
I'm fine, thank you. First of all, again, I would like to introduce myself in case that this is the first time somebody's watching this. I'm
Yeah.
Karinna Gala, and I'm a real estate agent here in. I'm located in Playa del Carmen, but we are involved or getting our noses in the whole peninsula. So this is me, and I'm fine. I'm very happy for being here today with you and enjoying the weather because it's sunny, cloudy, but it's not as hot as it has been like the last, I don't know, 6 months or something like that. It's been real hot. What about you?
Yes. So, for everyone who doesn't know, if it's your first time, my name is Kiafa, and I've been here in Mérida for about 5 months now. And I started real estate back in 2019, and I love it here. Right now, we're in kind of a rainy season. I know it's known for being hot here in Mérida, but I love it because I like hot weather, and I love the people, and I just like the environment here. So yeah, and I hope to be going to visit you soon, Karina and Playa. So
You
that's
have to.
that's on my checklist because I've never been to Playa, so I gotta get out there.
You're going to love it. And I think personally, my favorite season for visiting the Caribbean is between September and October
Okay.
because it's not as hot as it's in the summer. And also, I think you've heard about the seaweed season. It gets bad during the summer. And also it's the less touristy season, so the beaches are not crowded. You can easily walk on the Fifth Avenue, and it's not going to be like a like a river of people where literally sometimes you cannot walk because there's so much people
Wow.
walking there that it's just impossible, especially like in the highest season, which is December. I mean, for Christmas, New Year, it's
Yeah.
just crazy. So I just stay in my house, like, no, I cannot go out, it's too much people.
Yeah.
But yes, I think September, October is the best season for coming, but we have hurricane season now. So the Atlantic has been very active, but nothing bad so far. So it's
Yeah.
also exciting. So
Yeah.
yes, you have to go. Maybe next time we will be streaming together from the same
Yeah.
location.
Yeah. That would be nice. That would be so much better where we can like feed off of each other's energy. Plus, I miss you. I haven't seen you in a long time in person, so can't wait. Yes. So, all right, you guys. So, shall we get started on the leasing agreements?
Yeah, I would like to do like a recap about what we've seen or studied or discussed in last episode. You know that we were having some technical issues, but hashtag millennials. So yeah,
Yeah.
it can be complex. My mom used to work in the TV for a long, long time, and
Oh,
every time I tell her about the issues of like the situation we were having last week, she's like, "This is the marvelous situations about being live on any show."
uh,
So I think we have to embrace it and enjoy it, and I hope our friends stay and understand these situations can happen, especially
yeah.
because we're not specialists in this topic. But okay, I'm diverting myself into another topic. So I would like to recap about what we were talking about last episode, and it's basically the two kind of contracts that are used in especially in Yucatan. So we already talked about the leasing agreement or contrato de arrendamiento, which is the one that's covered in the civil code of the state. And that's how it should be done, because it states every single detail of the agreement that's been agreed between the parties.
Right.
And the other one that's the most common is the spooky convenio transaccional de desocupación y entrega, which is being handled within a laguna in the legislation. So basically, the only state where you're going to find a contract like this is going to be Yucatan. Sometimes here in Quintana Roo, they want to do it as well, because Quintana Roo, in the legal terms, is just some sort of a, I wouldn't say a copy, but my vocabulary can get limited, but it imitates a lot of things that are done in Yucatan and that are proved to be working. So convenio transaccional de desocupación y entrega or occupancy agreement should be a complementary agreement to the leasing agreement. And it is your right as a tenant to request for a regular leasing agreement plus the occupancy agreement for for protection of both of the parties. So this is more or less how it is. If you want to know to go deeper in the topics, let's go to episode 3, and then you can hear everything about those. So let's go to the topics today.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So, shall we start with? Shall we start with like the issues with like just the rules and regulations around living in privadas? And did you want to talk about that, or where you wanted to start with it?
Sure thing. This is a very complex topic, and I think it can even extend to another episode, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of rumors, and again a lot of misinformation from both sides. This situation about the convenio transaccional, I mean the occupancy agreement, started because of the fear of owners of losing their properties, of or renting some properties and then not being able to recover or to get back that property because the tenant stayed there forever without paying and maybe destroying the property, which is like a legit concern from every person who owns a property. I mean, I think it's understandable. But here's where misinformation plays a lead role, because it starts, I mean, the weird praxis starts spreading like super fast, and then somebody started using this agreement and it worked for them, and then everybody started using it. So first of all, something that I would like to clarify, and we all should keep in mind, is that there's no mentally stable landlord who is going to kick a tenant off just because. If you're renting as an owner, if you're renting a property, it's because you want to make profit from your property, because a property that's empty gets damaged easily, and there's a lot of how do you call it, wear and tear.
Wear and tear. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
From just being empty, and it's incredible how damaged it can be just because it's not being used. So if you own a property and you are offering it for rental, it's because you want to make money. So every single business comes with a risk. And there's no entrepreneur that will say that I'm wrong about this, because there's no business without risk. So, of course, there's certain risk in renting your property to someone, but here's where prevention plays a leading role. So, having said this, nobody is going to rent a property with intentions of kicking the tenant out.
Right.
So, in the privadas is what we call the gated community. The only difference is that it's constituted through an HOA, a homeowner association. So there's different urban layouts, which is the fraccionamiento, which can be private or not. And that's the only difference. I mean, nobody can tell you not to leave the property, or on the opposite, on the contrary, nobody can tell you not to get in just because you haven't paid the HOA fee. Of course, you're not going to be able to have certain rights like the security guard opening the door for you. You will have to do it yourself. But first of all, if you have the legal possession of the property, nobody can deny you the access. And of course, nobody can hold on, nobody can keep you hostage in the property, because of course that's illegal. So I know there were some rumors. No, there was, I mean, no rumors, but there was a situation that was like known of a person who was being held as hostage somehow. I think it was in the Yucatan Club, right?
Yes, yes, she claimed that she was being kidnapped and held hostage inside of her Pravada, because they would not allow for her to leave with her things in her car. So I think the situation was, she was behind on a lot of her bills for, I think it had piled up to maybe 3 months or something like that. It could have been a little bit longer, but I know that she was behind on everything. And so she was trying to leave and go back to the States. So she was trying to leave and go back, but she had not paid. So she was saying they were not allowing for her to leave with her things because she had packed all of her stuff up. She put it in her vehicle. And then when she went to go leave, they were like, no, you cannot leave with your stuff in your vehicle. However, you can leave in your daughter's car, you know? So they were not holding her hostage. They were just saying, like, you can't leave with your stuff, but you can leave in your car with your daughter because her daughter was also there. And they were like, you're free to go and do that. So that's what the issue was. We didn't know that at first. She didn't tell us that. She just said that she was being kidnapped and held hostage. She didn't give the details. But later, she gave the details and she was saying that she could leave in her car, in her daughter's car with her daughter, but they just wouldn't allow for her to leave with her things. So then, we were just, I think that the question came up, well, is that something that, that a landlord can do inside of a provider? Can they say, yeah, sure, you're free to go, but we're going to keep your things here? That's what the main question is. Is that okay for the landlord to keep your things as collateral and not allow for you to exit the property with all of your things, all of your clothes, all of your furniture, and things like that?
I think it will depend specifically in the specific clauses in the contract you've signed. Because when you analyze it from the perspective of the landlord, and if the debt from the tenant is big, they have to find a way for warranting the payment to be covered. Like I've always told you, in Mexico we say, es mejor un mal arreglo que un buen pleito, which would be translated that it's better a bad deal than a good fight.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that we can all be in that situation that we can no longer pay the rent, but we can always try to negotiate first with the landlord. Like, okay, I'm having this situation. I'm not denying to pay you. I just cannot keep on paying anymore. So the best thing for me is to leave the property, so I'm not occupying it for any longer and having the debt growing. So you can start renting it again, and then we can make an agreement for me to pay you later, or I don't know, if it's a big debt, I can pay you with my car, or there's always something that can be negotiated, like in the good terms, before getting in a situation. So if in the contract it states that the landlord can keep the possessions of the tenant that are currently in the property when having breaching the
Yes.
thank you the contract, then it can be legal. If it's in the contract and it's agreed by both of the parties, then it can be done. The difference between a privada and a not privada is that when you don't live in a privada with a security, then there's nobody to let the landlord know that you're going to leave. So that's the difference. So in these situations where when you're living in a privada or a gated community, the landlord will notify the security or the administration of the cluster that you cannot move out. I mean, you cannot bring a truck for taking your stuff because you have a debt. So they will have to comply that. And that's the only difference. But again, it's not legal to keep you against your will in a property, or not letting you in because you have the legal possession.
Okay, absolutely. So for those of you who are watching from, like from the States, for example, just know that when you come to Mexico, it's different. So when you come here, excuse me, when you come here, don't expect to get behind on all of your bills and then everything just to be normal and then you can just go on your way. Here, it's gonna be like she said, try to negotiate something with your landlord. And these are things we're not used to in the states. We're just not used to that. Tip in the states, it's very, it's more harsh, honestly, because we cannot well, I guess it goes both ways because there's no negotiating with most of the landlords. So if you're behind, after like depending on where you're living and the rules in the contract, but if you get behind more than maybe 3 days, 5 days, you pay a late fee. And then if it's after like maybe 10 days or something like that, then they begin to start the eviction process. So
Okay.
immediately. So typically they don't negotiate with you. If you do have a landlord that will negotiate with you, then you're very fortunate. But for the most part, you already know the eviction process is going to start, and then that's when you get that eviction notice, or you'll get the letter basically that says you have to answer it in the court. So then you have to go to court, and do all of that extra stuff. So however, I think the biggest difference is in the States, you do have a time frame because you'll get something saying you have to go to the courthouse on this day to answer. So at least you kind of have an idea, okay, all right, so I know I have to be out by this day before the sheriff comes or whoever comes to throw all of my things out. So you'll know when you have to leave. And it's different. I think it varies from state to state. But you do get to leave and still owe that debt. You do get to still leave with your possessions. You know what I'm saying? And what they do is just apply it to your credit. So here in Mexico, it's not like that. Like in the US, we're used to kind of being able to go in debt. And then if we do go in debt, the worst thing that's going to happen to you is that they're going to just put that on your credit. So if you still owe, I don't know, hypothetically speaking, let's say you still owed $10,000 on your rent, okay, on your contract that you breached. Basically, they're going to put on your credit that you owe this company, this rental company, or you owe this whatever $10,000. And so now it's going to be hard for you to rent anywhere else because they do a credit check. Every time you go to rent a place, they're going to do a credit check, and the credit check they're going to see, hey, you owe this company 10,000. So no, we're not going to allow for you to rent here with us. So in Mexico, it's going to be different. You're kind of going to be owed that debt up front, is what it seems like. So a lot of times in your agreement, like Karinna was saying, it's going to say, if you fall behind, on or if you breach this contract, then, we do have the right to hold your possessions here as collateral for, the debt that you owe. So just kind of keep that in mind, that is a possibility here. But you will not be held hostage. You will not be kidnapped. It's just, your things have to be held as collateral. It's just different here, so that could be the case when you do move into a privada. So they will still allow for you to leave. I do know, I have one person here that I know. If she fell behind on her rent, for a few days or something like that, they would still let her come and go. But with this particular privada, for example, um, she had to walk to the gate sometimes to get her food. So, like you said, certain things can possibly be taken away from you. So instead of the gate, like let's say hypothetically, letting her Uber Eats, normally they can go through the gate and go straight to the house and deliver the food. But no, because you're behind, that's a luxury that's going to be taken away sometimes. So instead, she would have to walk to the gate to get her food versus it coming straight to the door. And then when it came to guests, your guests may have to, they'll still let your Uber in to bring your guests to your home. But what they would do is make the guests get out of the car to push the button to let the gate up so that the Uber can drive through the gate to the house. So instead of them pushing the button for you, the gate lifts, you have to do it. Your guest has to get out of the car and do it. So it'll be like certain things like that, if you're behind. And then I had another customer, a client. She moved into an apartment, so just a regular apartment building, no provided. In her leasing agreement, it stated that if she fell behind so many days, the first thing that would happen is they would cut off the electricity after so many days. The second thing was they were going to turn off her water after even more days. And then if it continued to be late after so many days, they would turn off the internet. Like stuff like that. That's what was in her leasing agreement. So, however, her life was not in danger. She was not being held hostage. Nothing like that. But just know it's different here. You're gonna have to pay one way or the other if you do fall behind in most cases, if you can't negotiate with your landlord. I cannot stress enough, if I don't teach you guys anything else in this video, I cannot stress enough the importance of a good relationship with your landlord. I mean, it's crazy. Like it was kind of rocky with me a couple times with my landlord, but I was like, forget it, like get over it, and now let's be good friends. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm very very cool with my landlord now. Like now we're really good. We're good. I won't say friends, but we're very professional and very nice to each other. So it works. And so if I have an issue or a problem or something, we talk about it and we come up with a solution. And it's the best thing because I never had that in the States. So that's another good thing about here in Mexico. If they'll work with you. And then I know someone else whose relationship with her landlord is terrible. It's terrible. So, and it's because of some things that happen in the beginning. My thing is this: if it's not perfect in the beginning, that doesn't mean that the relationship has to be completely ruined for the rest of the lease or the rest of the term. You can still get over it. That's life. I mean, nothing in life is perfect. It's not going to be a smooth road. So, what you do is you go over the humps, and then you keep moving. And if you can continue to, just form a good, positive, solid relationship, then do that. You know what I'm saying? Even if you have to be the bigger person. This is my opinion. This is coming from me. You don't have to. But even if you have to be as the tenant, if you have to be the bigger person, then be the bigger person because you never know in the future what could happen where you may need to talk to your landlord and say, hey, can we negotiate? Because things in life happen. Like I understand there are emergencies that happen. Um, unexpected um, you have unexpected expenses sometimes in life, and just things happen. So you never know when you may need to talk to your landlord and just say, hey, is there anything that we can work out? Can I pay you on this date instead of this day, or whatever the case may be? And you'll be surprised how they'll be willing to work with you because landlords are human too, and they understand as well. So that's just that's my little input there.
Yeah, in the end, this is not a business, it's a matter of human relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
remember that there was like a complex negotiation you were having, and the possible tenant has already had certain conflicts with the landlord, because I can remember why. And one of the advices were like, this relationship is already damaged and it's going to be a pain in the neck for the rest of the year, not only for the tenant, not only for the landlord, but also for the agents involved, because rental is like a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It's a marriage between all the parties involved, not only tenant and owner, but also the agents that were helping through the transaction, because they're going to be calling you, especially if they don't have a good relation. They're going to be calling you for asking you to let the owner know that the bulb is not working or the WC is not flushing, just for small details, just for being annoying. And on the other side as well, like, oh, she's late 30 minutes with a monthly fee. Can you remind her to pay? And it's like, we're still in the time. So yeah, the importance of having a good relationship with the person you are renting the property from is vital. I mean, there's nothing more important than that, because in the end, you're going to be in touch, you like it or not. Another advice that I would say, that it comes, like, it's not professional, but it comes through experiences, that trust your gut. You as a tenant will eventually meet the landlord. So if before signing the contract you have like a feeling, or there's not like a click, or you find that the chemistry is not going to flow, it's important to trust.
Yeah, yeah. You can feel it in your gut, because you can feel the energy. It's like, okay, something's off. Or and my clients, a lot of my clients are good with that. They are very good with that. I've had like the past two clients that I had. They were like, something was off about the landlord's energy. So they're not being honest about it. So we're gonna move on to the next house. So make sure you do that. Follow your gut. And another thing that I wanted to add on is, so a lot of Americans will come here and think that, hey, oh, I haven't had any clients like this, but some people will come here and think, oh, I can go there and I don't have to worry about my credit. So I can just break a lease right here. Don't tell the landlord anything, just break my lease and then I can move somewhere else. Or I can just be super late because, I can stay here a little bit longer. Let me tell you something. Here, you may not have a credit score here, but let me tell you two things. One, I had one person that lives here that I know. What they do is they have a like a community WhatsApp group, right? So it's for the tenants are in there, the landlords, so everybody in the Pravada, along with the landlords, are in this WhatsApp group. Anybody that's late a certain amount of days, they blast your name in the WhatsApp group. So everybody knows, all of your neighbors know that you're 2 months behind or whatever. All of your the security knows, so as you're coming through the gate, so they will embarrass you. So don't think that you can come here to just play with people, because no, you will be known and everybody around you will know that this person is late. And then also, I think if you had a good relationship, maybe they wouldn't do that to you if you had a good relationship, right? So another thing is, there's another young lady who the community has been talking about, and I won't say her name or anything like that, but she has been blasted on several Facebook groups. I'm talking the local Mexican landlord Facebook groups. They screenshot her Facebook profile that shows her face, her name, everything. They put it in the Facebook groups with all the landlords, and they blasted her in there. Think about how embarrassing that is for social media. That's social media. You know what I'm saying? So just think about it. Like, it went from being in this landlord group of the local landlords here to being over into all of the expat groups as well. Think about how embarrassing that had to be for her, because she had not paid any of her bills or anything for 5 months. And when I tell you, I'm not going to say some of the things that the landlords were saying about her in Spanish in that group, but they were not nice. I'm not going to say it, but a lot of people, and it made a lot of the expats look bad. And I have noticed, ever since that situation happened, where that young lady was 5 months behind and they blasted her. Ever since then, I noticed that the tenants coming in since then are starting to have to show more proof that they're able to pay their rent. So now the landlords are always asking for bank statements or proof of income now to move into a home. So just know that it can kind of make rules a little bit more strict at times, because don't forget that the landlords here have a right to ask you for information on your income, so that they can see that you're able to actually pay it. And don't think that just because your statement shows that you can pay the rent, don't think that they'll be okay with that necessarily, because they may want you to make 2 or 3 times the rent in order for you to live there. So just know that that could happen as well. So I just wanted to say that.
Crazy. So this woman is the one to blame, that the requisites are much more now.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm saying, because before that, like, none of the landlords asked for like statements or anything. And then like after that happened with that girl, now everybody, since then, every single person since then has asked. My last three or four people, they've been asking for statements. So, or proof of income, or several, like more than one ID. Um, yeah. So
I think this is especially with non-Mexican people. This is more for certainty of the owners, because in the end, when you don't have any attachment to the country,
exactly, exactly.
or what? I are you there?
I'm here, but I can't see you.
Okay, that froze, but you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, okay. So this is for certainty from the owners, because in the end, people can just live. And I've heard like a lot of horror stories here in Playa del Carmen, where they are renting completely furnished units or expensive units, and the tenant just brings a truck, and then the furniture is out. So it's just crazy. So that's and I'm not saying that it happens only with non-Mexican people. It has happened with Mexican people as well. So it is like it when you are a scammer, you have no nationality. You can be a scammer from any nationality.
Listen, I'm
So
telling you.
so the only thing they want is to have the certainty that if they cannot locate you in one way, they can find you in another. This person was freezing my. I don't know if you can still not see my video.
No, I can't see you. I still can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, the important thing is what we are saying. Is someone asking for free advisory? I'm going to charge him extra for interrupting this.
Yes, yes, please do.
So, huh?
I said yes, please do.
So yes, I mean, don't get offended if you're asked with extra requisites you didn't hear about. Just step for one moment on the shoes of the owner and just provide the information they want. If by any circumstance they say, I know you don't comply with the requisites I'm looking for in my tenant, then just move on and find another property, and the one who's losing it is them.
Right.
So and I mean, there's a lot of inventory. Fortunately, we don't have a problem that we don't have places for living. So there's a lot of inventory. And if you, as a tenant, don't feel like it and don't feel like moving in the property because they're putting so many restrictions or anything, just go ahead and find another place. But one thing is important to notice is that ask clearly before anything or before giving any money what the requisites are for renting that property, because it has happened. I mean, you've told me about this, that after the tenant giving the security deposit, suddenly the landlord decides that they want to change the requisite list, and that's not okay.
Yeah, so what I would say for those who are watching, if you are moving here, I realize I have to be more specific because it's happened a few times now where I'll say, can you please list all of the requirements? What I need to know everything that's required in order for the tenant to move in. And they'll say, oh, two deposits, first month's rent, pay the notary fee, and then that'll be it. And I'll be like, well, is there anything else? Because we need to know everything. And then I'll even tell them, please put that on the receipt that you're going to give us for the payment of the first deposit. I make everything that's required. Yeah, so yeah, I did recently have a client who did not get everything up front. We did ask what's everything that we need in order to move into the home. What are all of the requirements? They gave us the requirements, and the client went ahead and gave her deposit. After she gave her deposit, it was probably like a week and a half later, maybe 2 weeks later, they came up with new requirements. And I was just like, why did you guys wait until, like weeks later after you got the deposit that you want to now make the requirement something like totally different? Like you didn't tell us this. I think they wanted to make it where the client had to make three times the rent. The first thing was that they didn't tell us that they would be needing a bank statement. But I was just like, okay, I talked to the client about that. I was like, they want, I think it was 3 months bank statements. So she provided the bank statements. They at that time they should have said, well, in the bank statements, we need to see that she's making 3 times the rent. They didn't do that. So she gave the bank statements, and then they were like, oh no, now we need this. Now this is a requirement. Now she needs to make 3 times the rent. So they kept changing it. And that was not fair to the client at all. And it wasn't fair to me either because I did ask over and over again, and they continued to change it. Excuse me. They continued to change the requirements. So what I have come to terms with this. I have to be more specific. So what I've started doing, because it happened again, like this, the last client that I had, it happened with her too. We asked 3 times in Spanish and in English. Every yeah, in Spanish and in English. We asked, anything else that you need for this client to move in besides what you've stated. They said no. And then she paid her deposit. And after she paid her deposit, then they were like, oh, we need for her to provide 6 months bank statements, I think it was, and in order to show that she needs to pay them. And she didn't want to do that because she wasn't comfortable with doing it. So I was like, this is why, and I had to tell them, like, this is why we asked you ahead of time because, again, you don't want to waste our time. We don't want to waste your time. So we asked up front. So what I have decided to do is instead of just saying what are the requirements to move in up front, I need to ask what are all of the documentation that is needed to move in, because I think that the landlords are not associating the requirements along with the documentation. So now when I ask for documentation, they're a little bit more specific and they'll say, okay, well, bank statements will be needed, passport will be needed, whatever the case may be. So if you're watching this and you do decide, just make sure that you're asking not just the requirements, but also what documentation is needed as well.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep in mind the regular requisites are going to be at least one ID. It's usually your passport. If you have a driver's license, it can also be valid because very often it is taken as a proof of address as well. So if you have the driver's license and the passport, that's going to be amazing because then you're identifying yourself with two official IDs in your country. Here in Mexico, the driver's license is not taken as an official ID, but it can be taken as a supplementary identification document or something like that. So, but for not official paperwork or whatever, then you can use the driver's license. Also, it's very, very important, and it's not normal or not normal, but common that agents in Mérida ask for references. When I do rentals, I like to get a KYC form from the tenants because we need to know information about the tenant. Not only because they're going to keep the property of someone else, but because we need to know what who to contact in case something happened to them. We have to be like also on the other side that there was like a very known case here in Playa of a person who was living there alone, and then suddenly no one of the neighbors knew anything from them for a week, and then the poor guy had a heart attack, and then there was no one to call or no one to find for claiming the how do you call it, the body. And
Yeah.
it was a sad situation. So of course I'm being super dramatic, but in the end this is life, and these things can happen. So you need, as an agent or as a landlord, you need to get as much information as you can from the tenant, and as a tenant you have to provide as much information as you can because this is going to create a sense of trust between you and your landlord or future landlord. So it's important to provide information from both sides. Also, what we do very often, which is not very common there in Yucatan, but here in Quintana Roo we do it, and it provides also a feeling of confidence in both parties, is a socio-economic study research. So we hire a third party, a company which is specialized in this, and they are going to be contacting the tenant or the possible tenant, and they're going to ask a lot of questions. They're going to be annoying. I know they're very annoying and they're intrusive because they want to know not only that you can afford the rental, which is an important part of the agreement, but that the money you are paying or you are using for paying the rental comes from illicit means, you know,
Right.
because we've talked about this before, but there's a law here in Mexico that if certain property is used for certain illegal activities, then the property is going to be taken away from the owner. So this information is important. And on the other side, you as a possible tenant have as well the right to know what the situation is with this house, because in the
Mm-hmm.
you don't see a title or anything, you don't really know if the person who says that is the owner of the property you want to move in is the real owner. And suddenly you can be living there and you've already paid a lot of money, and one day the owner, the real owner, comes and kicks you out because you didn't do your due diligence. So the titles here in Mexico are public contracts, and you, as a possible tenant, have the right to ask for a copy. If they don't want to provide it to you, you have the right to be shown with this information. You have the access to that. And you can also go to the public registry of the property for checking the legal status of that property. Because on the other hand, let's say I'm the owner of a house and I'm offering it for rent, but I purchased it through a mortgage, but I'm late with my loan, and there's a legal process against myself. This property is going to be in a foreclosure, and the person who's living in there is going to be kicked out, and they don't have a saying because they were not there. They didn't also have the right for being there because me as a late, how do you call it, as a debtor,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't use the property for renting. So there's a lot of information you as a tenant have to confirm, and it's your right and obligation because in the end it's going to be your stability, and also your families. So you can ask for this information. The most probable thing is that they are going to tell you that no, we don't do that here, or nobody has ever asked us for this information. But you can have a meeting with the attorney of the notaria who is going to take the process, and they can show you the title where you can prove that the person who is going to sign the leasing agreement is actually the person who owns the property and that has the full capacity, legal, moral, mental, financial, the full capacity for renting that property to you, and that you are not going to be in danger of being evicted due to circumstances, uh, how do you call it, not related to the owner or to the or to a breaching in the contract. So it's
Right.
an important detail nobody does.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, and that's something that I think should be done, especially for those of you who come move here on your own and you don't want the help of a realtor. And the reason why I say that is because I also had a client who she was using me as her realtor. However, she was adamant about a home that she saw on Facebook. So I try to, I mean, Facebook has some legit stuff, but some of them are also scams. So I try to stay away from Facebook, different Facebook homes listings because of that. So she was very adamant. So we went to go look at the home, and when we got there, it was the owners. I put quotations. It was a couple, very, very nice. Um, and the home that she was going to be staying in was on the property of the bigger house that the owners lived in, supposedly with their son. So we go and we look at the house and everything. And then as we're leaving, they're telling her the requirements to move in. They got all of her information. So I put us all in a WhatsApp group so that everyone could chat together. And so everything was going kind of normal until they asked me for my personal information, which they shouldn't be needing my personal information. Like, they wanted my address, and they wanted my ID and my some of my other like personal information. And I asked in the group, I was like, "Why do you need my information? Like, I am not the person who's moving in. I'm just the representative for the client. I'm just helping her." And I was helping her more of a friend than anything. And so they were like, "Oh, we just need your information. We're not gonna share it with anyone. We're not gonna do this. We're not gonna do that. We just need your information. No reason, no reason. They were like, yeah, we're just gonna put you down as, maybe a contact for the client. And I was like, but I'm not a contact for the client. If you need, like some references for her, like family or something like that, then we can do. They were like, oh no, we need someone's address here in Mérida. And I was like, but she's an expat, so her family, friends, most of them are going to be out of the country. Like they were so adamant. So then after I had to tell them no, they were like, okay, fine, no problem. And then the next like red flag for me was they wanted her to pay for a notary, but they were saying that the homeowner was a notary. So I was like, okay, no problem. But they wanted her to pay like astronomical prices for them as a notary, even though they already had their own contract and everything. They were just gonna fill out. And then they started to ask questions that are not normal for a landlord to be asking. So when I told them like, no, this isn't like these are questions are not normal that she should have to provide, like it was just getting too personal. In the group chat, I was like, okay, well, we're waiting for you to send the contract agreement over to us so that we can look it over, make sure everything looks good. And then we'll go ahead and she can pay for the notary or whatever. And for whatever reason, they were just like, it was just taking days for us to get the contract. And then on like the third day, they were still trying to get more money out of her for some reason. And then when I was like, no, we won't pay anything until we see the contract. We need to see this leasing agreement to make sure it looks good because they wanted her to go ahead and pay for all this stuff, deposits and stuff. And after that, the next thing you know, they just left the group and they were just like, oh, home no longer available, and they left. But they were just trying to get money her without showing any kind of leasing agreement, without trying to provide her with a receipt if she were to give them a deposit. Like it was a lot of things that it just didn't add up. So you just kind of have to be careful whenever you are dealing with, if you're doing this on your own as well. So I just want to put that out there too.
Yeah, that's great. And I think we should, I mean, if we are asked, we should let people know which notary with what this one. I don't know if we can do it like publicly, better we don't. But if
Yeah.
somebody does, we should tell them because this is certainly not normal. If you, I mean, owners, I mean, everybody has the right to ask as much information as they feel they need for proceeding with the contract.
Mhm.
But make sure that you've signed a privacy policy before giving any information because most of the time you're delivering sensitive information such as your bank statements. Nobody wants people to know how much money you're making or how much money you have in the bank. So remember that you have to sign this privacy policy for you to be safe about the treatment of your sensitive information. Even if it's not sensitive information, your name and your ID is sensitive information itself. So that's another thing that people is not doing that in Merida, and you have to demand that situation for you to feel safe. I mean, there's a lot of I don't know how to say it, like harassment against tenants or possible tenants, but nobody is thinking about tenants also being helpless about any kind of abuse. So of course, both of the parties are are going to the same goal, which is having a house rented. So in the end, you have as a tenant the right to ask as many questions as you need for feeling safe, and
Yeah.
also the owner can have the right of asking as much information as they need for feeling safe about the person who they're handling their property. It's all about communication. Here's another thing that can be tricky and it's the language barrier. So yeah, it's crazy. I think we can keep on talking about this situation for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, we
But
could.
yeah,
We definitely
be
could.
super careful.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely could. So, did you want to like touch over evictions a little bit, or not really today? Or do you want to maybe do that another show?
We still have to talk about the importance of the cosigner. We can talk as well about the eviction process, how this convenio de entrega works as an already judged situation. I don't know if that's the correct legal term in English. I have to look for it. We also have some some topics to touch about the rental agreements. I don't know if you want to go deeper in this episode, or should we leave them to part 3?
Yeah, I mean, we can always do a part 3. Yeah, because we are coming up on 50 minutes. So, yeah, we can always do a part 3 and talk into the eviction process because that's another big question that I do get. You know, people want to know. There are some rumors going around that here in Mexico, they can't kick you out for like 6 months, 7 months. Yeah, so that's one rumor that's going around. And then you have the other rumor that they can come at any time and just kick you out like immediately. So people are really confused. So and I get a lot of those questions as well, like what are actually the laws here or the process of evictions here if that's the worst case scenario because nobody wants to be evicted, but it is still good to know, just still good to know the laws around it. So
Yeah. Eviction process is not as fast as in the States. Let's remind that at least in Mexico, living housing is a human right, so they cannot just evict it like that. In the almost 20 years I've been working in real estate, I've seen 2 situations where people has been evicted. Only 2.
okay.
Uh, one, it was clients of mine. The other one was close friend to the owner, but they didn't use me as an agent, so that's their karma. But yes, and yeah, I definitely think we can talk about that in the next episode, so we can
Yes.
go deeper, and we can also let them know some horror stories from both sides, tenants and owners, so
Yeah.
they know what to expect. But yes, I know the key from everything is the information. And I
Right.
know that as a possible expat or already an expat, you can feel uncertain about things, about how things are happening here in Mexico. Here we are friendly people and we are welcoming everyone, so we are always trying to get the best deal possible. So don't worry, you're safe here. Nobody's going to beat you just because. And just start making friends with landlords, and
Yes.
everything is going to be all right. As long as you comply all the agreements, then there shouldn't be any problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the most important thing. So yeah, I think that about sums it up. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for tuning in, whether you're live or whether you're watching the playback. Thank you so much for tuning in, and feel free to let us know if you have questions. You can also check out housebuy.mx. Check that out because it's some cool stuff on there that Karinna has, and also you can find me at Quarters by Kiafa if you don't know already on Facebook and also on Instagram. So keep that in mind. If you do have any questions, I pretty much check my DMs every day. And then with Karinna, you can find Karinna also housebuy.mx on pretty much every platform, right, Karinna?
Yeah, that you're right. And we're also on Spotify in case you don't like to be watching videos. I mean, I'm a big fan of listening, even audiobooks. So because
Yeah,
while I'm driving or while I'm working out, then I get to learn a lot while doing those things and listening to stuff. So we're also on Spotify. So far, we've only uploaded the episode 1, but we will be catching up soon with
yes,
that. So make sure that you're following us in every single platform. You can also find Kiafa in YouTube as arroba Kiafa.
yes,
So make sure that you're following her as well. And ask your questions. We're here for helping you. We're going to give you an advisory here. I'm not going to be like with the other client that interrupted our transmission, but we're
yes,
here for helping you. And also let us know if you would like to know about any specific detail or something. We're going to be more than happy to talk about that. Thank
yes,
you.
absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so much, Karina. Thank you guys, and we will see you guys next week, next Thursday, same time. Well, not the same time as today, but probably around like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we always put out a flyer, so we will see you next Thursday.
Next Thursday. The best thing they can do is just to subscribe and hit the bell so they know when we're going to be transmitting live, so they don't miss any episode.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Gigi, for always being here.
Yes, thank you, Gigi. You're always supporting us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we love Gigi. He cannot see the heart I'm making with my hands, but we love Gigi. Thank you, Kim. Let's stay in touch. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Cambio y fuera.